Just in Oat gift to boat shocked the world as Dispatch revealed it. The night was already unforgettable, but what unfolded next left even the most prepared hearts completely undone. Just when the world thought Boat's wedding gift to Oat had set an impossible standard, the spotlight turned, and all eyes fell on Oat. For hours, he had been overwhelmed, tears staining his cheeks, voice breaking in gratitude, his body nearly collapsing as he clung to Boat's hand. Fans around the world had cried with him, celebrated with him, and believed that no gesture could ever rival what Boat had done. But Oat, soft-spoken and usually humble, had been carrying a secret of his own. And when it was finally revealed, the world held its breath. The reception hall dimmed suddenly, plunging the room into a hush. Music faded, leaving only the sound of soft gasps and whispers. Then, with a flicker, the massive screens that had been displaying the monument's image shifted. A heartbeat echoed through the speakers, thudding louder and louder until it seemed to shake the floor beneath their feet. The crowd stiffened, confused yet eager, their eyes darting between the screens and Oat, who stood trembling at the center of it all. Boat looked at him curiously, his head tilting slightly, as though he couldn't quite piece together what was happening. Oat, cheeks still wet with tears, wiped his face, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. His voice was soft at first, but the microphone carried it across the hall. "You gave me forever," Oat said, voice breaking. "But tonight, I want to give you something too. It won't match the monument, but it comes from my heart. And I hope when you see it, you'll know what you mean to me." The screens lit up again, and the entire room erupted in screams. Rolling across the projection was the image of a sleek, futuristic car gliding down a moonlit road. Its polished chrome body reflected the stars above like liquid silver, its lights glowing like fire in the night. The emblem flashed boldly across the screen. It was the newest release, the kind of car most people only ever dreamed of owning. Whispers turned to shouts, then to shrieks as fans realized what they were seeing. The Dispatch confirmed it seconds later. Oat had purchased the latest luxury car on the market, a model so rare it wasn't even publicly available yet. Cameras swung wildly, trying to capture every angle as the double doors at the end of the hall opened slowly, dramatically, like a scene straight out of a film. Fog machines hissed, filling the aisle with white mist, and then it appeared, gleaming, immaculate, the very car from the screens, rolling into the hall as if it had been plucked straight out of a dream. Fans screamed so loudly that their voices cracked. Some clutched their faces, others collapsed against their neighbors, sobbing uncontrollably. Social media feeds exploded instantly, hashtags soared as millions of posts poured in within seconds. OAT did what? Flooded timelines, while another trending tag read simply, #Boat speechless. Inside the hall, the car came to a gentle stop just before Boat. Its futuristic headlights blinked twice, almost like a wink, and then the doors slowly swung open. The crowd fell silent, holding their breath. Oat, trembling with emotion, turned to Boat and whispered into the microphone, his words echoing across the stunned audience. "This isn't just a car. This is freedom, this is adventure, this is my way of saying, let's keep moving forward together. You gave me forever, so let me give you the road to it." The hall erupted. Guests leapt from their chairs, cheering and crying at once. Fans live streaming from outside could be heard screaming as if they had been there in person. Some collapsed to their knees, pounding the floor in disbelief. Others sobbed into their phones, shouting that they could no longer breathe. Even the Dispatch reporters, usually composed, were visibly shaking as they announced the news, their voices trembling with disbelief. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's official. Oat has just gifted Boat the world's latest luxury car, a model so exclusive it hasn't even been released to the public yet. This is history." Fans everywhere are in absolute shock. Boat himself stood frozen. His hand clutched his mouth, his chest heaved as though he'd forgotten how to breathe. For a long, electric moment, he said nothing at all, just stared at the shining car before him, then back at Oat. His eyes filled with tears, not the quiet kind, but heavy sobs that rolled down his face in waves. He staggered forward, his knees buckling slightly, and pressed his forehead against Oat's shoulder, shaking violently with emotion. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every tear, every tremble, every drop of disbelief. The audience couldn't stop shouting. Some yelled his name, others simply screamed into the air, unable to process what they were witnessing. The atmosphere was so intense that people later compared it to an earthquake of emotions. And just when it seemed the moment couldn't get any more dramatic, the dispatch revealed the final detail that sent the world into meltdown. This wasn't just any car. Oat had personalized it. The license plate gleamed with a single inscription, etched in bold, shining letters. Sparkles forever with Boat. Sparkles. The hall collapsed into chaos. People sobbed uncontrollably. Reporters abandoned their scripts. Fans fainted. And Boat fell to his knees completely, his sobs echoing in the microphone as Oat rushed to hold him. It was official. What was supposed to be Boat's night had become something even more. The gift exchange between the two had redefined what love, devotion, and shock meant for fans everywhere. The hall was still shaking with screams when Boat finally lifted his head from Oat's shoulder. His face was wet, his lips trembling as though the words wouldn't come. For a moment, it looked like he would collapse entirely, his knees weak, his chest heaving under the weight of emotions too heavy to bear. Oat, still holding him, whispered softly into his ear, words that the microphones barely caught. "This is yours. You've carried me, now let me carry you." Those words broke him. Boat sobbed harder, his tears spilling onto the microphone. The sound echoed through the hall, raw and unfiltered, sending fans into an emotional meltdown. People weren't just crying, they were screaming through their tears. Some clutched their stomachs as if the intensity was physical pain. Others shouted Oat's name like a prayer. Reporters inside the hall could barely hold their microphones steady, their own voices cracking as they tried to describe what they were seeing. Then, in an act that sent shockwaves around the world, Boat staggered toward the car. His legs wobbled, his hands shook, but his eyes were fixed on the gleaming silver machine that now stood before him. He reached out slowly, fingertips brushing against the polished surface. Cameras zoomed in close, capturing the exact moment his trembling hand rested on the hood. The crowd roared. Fans outside the hall fell to their knees, wailing with disbelief. "It's real," Boat whispered, his voice cracking so deeply it made the hall erupt once again. "It's really mine." Oat smiled through tears. "Not just yours," he said softly, "ours. Every journey we take, every mile we go, it will carry us forward together." The crowd was unhinged. People jumped from their seats, clapping wildly, some throwing flower petals, others just sobbing openly into each other's arms. Guests shouted things like history, and this love is too much. The walls seemed to shake with the weight of so many emotions colliding at once. And then the dispatch confirmed the most shocking detail yet. Not only had Oat secured the latest car, a model that hadn't even been released to the public, but he had done it months before anyone else, pulling strings that even billionaires couldn't manage. The car wasn't just the latest, it was the very first unit ever delivered in the entire world. Fans screamed so loudly that some lost their voices. Social media timelines turned into oceans of disbelief. Hashtags exploded across every platform. #ForeverWithBoat, #OatSurprise, #BoatInTears, and #HistoryGift all trended simultaneously. Within minutes, live streams of the moment reached record-breaking numbers. Platforms crashed temporarily under the weight of millions trying to watch Boat's sobbing reaction on loop. International news outlets scrambled to cover the story. Major headlines appeared within the hour. Love on wheels. Oat gifts Boat the world's first luxury model car. Fans collapse as Oat's wedding gift shocks even Boat himself. History made again, Boat and Oat rewrite the meaning of devotion. Across the globe, fans reacted in ways that bordered on hysteria. In Tokyo, a massive crowd gathered in Shibuya Crossing, chanting Boat and Oat's names in unison. In New York, Times Square screens replayed the footage as fans sobbed openly in the streets, hugging strangers. In Lagos, fans danced through the night, drums echoing as they shouted "Forever with Boat." In Manila, fans staged impromptu parades, waving banners and holding car-shaped balloons. One fan in London collapsed on live TV while being interviewed, overcome by tears, whispering, "This isn't a wedding, this is a revolution of love." Clips of her crying went viral, symbolizing the way the world felt, overwhelmed, breathless, changed. Inside the hall, Boat was still crumbling under the weight of it all. He circled the car slowly, like a man in a dream, touching the sleek metal, running his hand across the steering wheel. When he sat inside for the first time, the cameras zoomed in on his face. His eyes glistened, his lips trembled, and then he burst into another flood of sobs, gripping the steering wheel as though it were the most precious thing in the world. The car's system lit up, revealing a glowing custom message across the dashboard. "Sparkles drive with me, forever. Oat Sparkles." The hall collapsed into chaos once again. Guests screamed into microphones, reporters clutched their heads, and fans outside fainted in waves. On social media, the moment was clipped endlessly, titled simply, "The Line That Broke Boat." And in that instant, Boat realized something. The monument he had given Oat was a gift to the world. But the car Oat had given him, it wasn't about spectacle, or legacy, or even the fans. It was intimate, personal, a reminder that while millions watched, their love still belonged to the two of them first. As tears poured down his face, Boat climbed out of the car and ran straight to Oat, tackling him into an embrace so tight that the microphones barely picked up their sobs. The hall stood, applauding, screaming, weeping, as two men clung to each other like the world itself could fall away and they wouldn't notice. It was official. The wedding had just delivered not one, but two gifts that would go down in history. By dawn the next morning, it was clear that Oat's gift had detonated something far bigger than anyone could have predicted. The footage of Boat breaking down in the car had already become one of the most replayed clips in internet history. Every angle, from professional cameras to shaky fan livestreams, was trending. Millions of people who hadn't even followed Boat and Oat before now found themselves weeping in front of their screens, unable to explain why. And while the world was still reeling, the Dispatch dropped another detail that sent fans spiraling. The car wasn't just the first of its kind delivered worldwide, it was also personally customized by Oat himself. Every inch had been touched by his hand. The interior was lined with fabric that matched Boat's favorite color. The headrests were stitched with initials, B and O. The sound system had been preloaded with their wedding playlist. And in the glove compartment lay a small velvet box containing a silver keychain engraved with a single phrase. "Sparkles forever is yours, forever is ours. Sparkles." When this detail hit the airwaves, fans collapsed into tears all over again. The idea that Oat hadn't just bought a car but had turned it into a living, breathing extension of their love was too much for people to process. Social media burned like wildfire. Memes, edits, and fan art flooded every platform. Some drew Boat crying into the steering wheel, others sketched the car with angel wings. Hashtags like #ForeverDrive, #BoatOnWheels, and #Oat the Legend dominated the charts for 3 straight days. Even government agencies and official accounts couldn't resist joining in. One airline tweeted, "We can fly you anywhere, but we can't fly you to forever with Boat." A space agency posted a picture of Earth from orbit with the caption, "Even from here, we can hear the screams of Boat's fans." Celebrities were no less dramatic. A famous rapper went live on Instagram, holding back tears as he said, "Forget jewelry, forget mansions. Oat just set the standard. This is how you gift someone when it's real." A Hollywood actress admitted in a red carpet interview that she stayed up all night watching the footage on repeat. "My mascara's gone," she laughed. "I've been crying for 10 hours straight." Meanwhile, dealerships around the world were mobbed. Fans camped outside luxury car showrooms, holding signs that read "Where's the Boat model?" and "Forever with Boat Edition when?" Some fans even built cardboard replicas of the car, decorating them with fairy lights and writing Oat's name across the hood. Streets in multiple countries were filled with parades of fans pushing toy cars while blasting Boat and Oat's wedding songs. But perhaps the most powerful reaction came from those who saw more than luxury in the gift. Commentators pointed out that Oat's choice carried symbolism. While Boat had given Oat eternity with a monument, Oat had given Boat movement, freedom, and the open road. Together, their gifts completed each other, the stillness of forever balanced with the motion of a journey. Academics, poets, and spiritual leaders began referencing the symbolism in lectures and sermons, declaring that the wedding was not just personal, but philosophical. And Boat? He was still undone. In every interview, his voice trembled. Cameras caught him at one point standing quietly in the car, hands on the wheel, tears streaming down his face again as he whispered, "I don't deserve this. How did I get so lucky?" Fans clipped that moment endlessly, calling it the whisper heard around the world. But Oat wasn't done. Days later, he revealed one final twist. The car wasn't just for display. He had secretly arranged for their honeymoon to begin not on a plane, but in the car itself. The couple would drive together across cities, across borders, across landscapes, creating their first memories as a married couple on the open road. Dispatch outlets broadcast the announcement with urgency usually reserved for breaking global events. Anchors declared, "Forget royal weddings. Forget billionaire ceremonies. This is love rewritten." Fans wept harder than ever, knowing they would soon see Boat and Oat not just as icons, but as travelers, explorers of their own love story. As they departed, fans lined the streets for miles, waving, crying, and chanting their names. The car glided forward, its license plate gleaming, "Forever with Boat," as Oat drove slowly, deliberately, his hand intertwined with Boat's across the gear shift. And that was how the journey began, not with silence, but with millions cheering, sobbing, and celebrating the couple who had once again redefined what love could look like. The world thought they had seen everything. They thought the monument and the car were the climax of Boat and Oat's wedding story. But then came the honeymoon. And it wasn't a private escape, it was a journey the entire planet followed as though it were their own. The moment Oat slid behind the wheel of the gleaming car, cameras clicked like thunder. Fans screamed until their voices cracked. Boat sat beside him, still wiping tears from his face, clutching Oat's hand as if letting go would break him. Together, they pulled onto the road, and history followed. From the very first mile, it was unlike anything the world had ever witnessed. Highways were lined with fans waving banners, holding flowers, and sobbing uncontrollably. Some camped out overnight just to catch a glimpse of the car. Others sprinted alongside it until their legs gave out, collapsing in tears as they waved goodbye. Entire towns shut down schools and offices so that people could flood the streets to cheer as Boat and Oat passed through. The car became more than transportation, it was a moving stage, a glowing icon. Its silver body reflected the flash of cameras, the shine of candles, the glow of neon signs erected in their honor. And wherever they drove, fans decorated the road with chalk drawings of hearts, infinity signs, and messages like "Drive safe, forever with you." Children ran forward to throw petals in their path, while elderly couples clutched each other's hands, whispering, "This is love reborn." Social media turned the road trip into a 24/7 broadcast. Hashtags trended globally every time they crossed into a new city. #Boat and Oat in Paris, #Forever with Boat NYC, #Drive to Forever Tokyo. Millions tuned in to watch live streams, refreshing every second just to witness them smile, wave, or lean into each other as the wind tangled their hair. Every stop became an event. In Paris, thousands waited under the Eiffel Tower, chanting until Boat and Oat stepped out of the car, hand in hand. In Rome, fans covered the Colosseum with banners declaring "Forever is ours too." In New York, Times Square screens replayed footage of them arriving, while crowds filled the streets so densely that police had to block off entire avenues. And in Bangkok, their homecoming stop, the welcome was so overwhelming that even seasoned reporters described it as an earthquake made of love. But amidst the spectacle, it was the quieter moments that broke fans' hearts the most. One night, livestream cameras caught them parked on a quiet cliff overlooking the sea. The car was still glowing faintly, but inside it was just Boat and Oat, hands intertwined, leaning against each other, whispering words no one else could hear. Fans around the world watched in silence, crying softly as though intruding on something sacred. That clip alone, titled "Forever in Silence," became one of the most shared videos of all time. The honeymoon wasn't just theirs anymore, it belonged to everyone. Couples renewed vows at every stop. Strangers reconciled with loved ones. Families came together, inspired by the journey. And everywhere, the same message echoed: love could still move mountains, build monuments, and drive forever. By the time Boat and Oat completed their journey, the world had been transformed. Historians compared it to pilgrimages of the past, moments when humanity united under a single story. Commentators declared that this was more than a wedding, it was a cultural awakening. Fans wrote journals, painted murals, filmed documentaries. And still, at the heart of it all, were just two people, Boat and Oat, holding hands in a car, proving that love could ripple outward until it touched millions. On their final night, as they pulled back into the city where it had all begun, fireworks erupted across the skyline. The monument gleamed in the distance, the car glittered beneath the lights, and the chants of fans shook the air. Forever, forever, forever. Boat looked at Oat, tears in his eyes once more. We gave them a story, he whispered. Oat smiled, squeezing his hand. No, he said softly. We gave them forever. And with that, the legend of Boat and Oat's wedding was sealed not just in monuments, not just in cars, but in the hearts of a world that would never forget.